okay, I'm living on the edge of the known world, and the governing authority that I'm currently under is abusing me. They're abusing me in many different ways. And so the founders listed these ways in the Declaration of Independence. They didn't list 3 examples. They didn't list 5 examples or even 10 examples. They listed 27 examples, basically, of how England was governing immorally. They were not governing in concert with the moral law, which is the first paragraph of the Declaration. And so they said, we're going to separate. And here's where they did the 4 things that you mentioned. The first thing they did is they acknowledged God and his purpose for civil government. They do that in the first and second sentences of the Declaration of Independence. And so the first sentence deals with, in the course of human events, when it becomes time, I'm really paraphrasing here,
sure,
from one people to separate themselves from the political bands that have attached them to another, a decent respect to mankind says that we should explain what is impelling us to this separation. And they make a really important statement. They say that the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. They're referring to the moral law here. And I have the quotes in the book to illustrate that is exactly what they're referring to. The moral law is summarized by the 10 Commandments. And basically what they're saying is all mankind has a right. They're entitled to live under that moral law. That's what the first sentence says. The second sentence is more recognizable to most Americans. It's the one that says, we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. For this reason, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers by the consent of the governed. That is the key sentence. And in that sentence, that is where they are acknowledging that God expects us to live in harmony with the moral law, and that he expects the government to govern by the consent of the governed, and that they're supposed to protect rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So everything I just said is how the founders acknowledged God in that first step. The second thing they did is they appealed for help, and that is in the last paragraph. It's an incredible paragraph. And by the way, all of your readers should go read the Declaration. Read it and read it every day for the next 10 days and spend time with it, like really try and understand what it's saying. In the last paragraph, they're saying, they say, appealing to the supreme judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions. Rectitude means truthfulness. And so they're appealing to God for help. And this is really important, Jeremiah, because there's no reason why they should have expected to be successful in separating from England. I mean, these were the superpower of the world at the time, and yet they were taking them on. And clearly, God bless the effort, because really there's no way that they should have been successful. So that's number 2, appeal. Number 3 is commit. They committed in several ways. In the last sentence, they say, with a firm reliance on divine providence, we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. They were putting up everything in order to deliver on what they were doing. And then they signed it. And so there's no more way that you can commit to this than what they did.
Their death warrants.
It was a death warrant if they were caught. And then the last thing they did is they declared it. The whole document is called a declaration. And they sent it around the colonies and they sent it to England. I mean, they were making sure that everyone understood what they were doing and why they were doing it. And that those 4 steps, they didn't make that up. They pulled that out of the example of the nation of Israel starting, which happened in Exodus 19 through 24. Okay. The whole thing was brokered through Moses. It's often referred to as the Mosaic Covenant. It's not really a good name for it. They name it that way because Moses was the guy who brokered the deal. He was the lawyer in this deal. He came down with the 10 Commandments and he said, hey, God says if we follow these, as best we can, he'll bless us.
Do you think Moses charged a fee for his lawyer, for his legal?
Yeah, he really did not make out well on that deal, but from a monetary standpoint. But certainly his fame has far surpassed.
For sure.
But he basically brokered this deal, and they all consented. They all said, yes, we'll do it. That's where we get the idea of consent. And then they appealed to God. They offered sacrifices, and they built an altar, which in those days was the way you would make a declaration, because they were out in the middle of nowhere. By the way, Jeremiah, these same 4 steps are the same steps that are used in a marriage.